Hi, in one of my first videos I showed to you various uses of 0 ohm resistors, so let's make a quick summary. As you might expect, we don't use 0 ohm resistor to limit the current as we do with the other resistors. Instead, we use them as jumpers, for example to jump over a PCB trace. This is often used in single layer or double layer PCBs to save cost and not upgrade to higher layer counts.
I have never seen so many 0 ohm jumpers before in my life.
We also use them to modify the functionality of the PCB. For example, here I used the 0 ohm resistor to skip the fuse when I was testing the board without the fuse. Now some of my viewers got triggered because I said that those are not exactly 0 ohm resistors. So why do we call like that? Well, that's because the value tends to 0, although it's not exactly 0. And we do this all the time. For example, a 100 ohm resistor won't be exactly 100 ohm, but rather the value will tend to 100 ohm. And the more you want it close to 100, the more you have to pay. That's why we have tolerances. And guess what? Even 0 ohm resistor have tolerances. Although it doesn't make sense to say 0 ohm plus minus 5%, because mathematically it will be always 0, the convention has remained. But instead it gives you the maximum value you can get. For example, if you look at this datasheet from Fusion, a 0 ohm resistor with 1% tolerance has a guaranteed maximum volume of 30 million, whereas if you buy the 5% one, you will get a guaranteed maximum value of 50 million. Now I want to do some tests. I designed this board that will test a 0402 0 ohm resistor and a 2512 one. I'm gonna run 1 amp and read the voltage drop so that with Ohm's law we can find the real resistance. But first let me thank my sponsor PCBWay, who provided the PCB used in this video. If you want really good looking PCB, I highly suggest to check PCBWay.com using the link in the description. They can also assemble PCBs for you or offer 3D printing and CNC machining, with tons of material to choose with. Just check PCBWay.com, link in the description. Okay guys, this is the setup for the test. I have here my power supply, then I have the electronic load, the Arduino, and then I have the board that I made. Now we're going to test the 2512 resistor. So let's turn on the supply, and now you see 0 millivolt. Now we're going to draw 1 amp of current. Okay, as you can see, now it drops, this resistor drops 9.5 millivolts at 1 amp, so this means this resistor here has a real resistance of 9.5 milliohm, which of course is more than 0, but is way less than the 50 milliohm maximum guaranteed value of this resistor. Okay, now we tested the 2512 one, but what if we do the same test with the 0402 resistor? I expect this resistor to have a bigger voltage drop because it's smaller, it's a smaller package, so we're gonna find out. Okay, I've connected all the cables and now we're gonna test the voltage drop at 1 amp of current and see the resistance of this 0402 0 ohm resistor. Here we go, 1 amp. Okay, let's see. What? 0.4 millivolt? That's like 400 micro ohm.
First reaction, shock. Shock because...
And that's exactly what I was expecting from this resistor. So why is the bigger one behaving worse? Well, it turns out here size do not matter. What matters instead is your datasheet. And in this particular case, ROM semiconductor guaranteed to me a maximum resistance of 0.5 milliohm. And also, look at the current ratings of these jumpers. The smaller one is way better. And now I want to give you one tip. If you want to use jumper for power traces and want to minimize power loss, don't use 0 ohm resistors, because the resistance could vary from 0 to 50 milliohm, as you now know. So you have two possibilities. Use a low ohmic one, like the ROM one, or just use a really low value resistor like 10 milliohm, 5 milliohm, or even lower. So you will have the same behavior over the various PCBs. And of course the same goes for voltage drop. Okay guys, tell me what you think, comment, subscribe, and hope you enjoyed.